G'day. Is Alex Albon rude to photographers? Is he dismissive? What is this all about? I've received a number of direct messages from fans about this reel from a fellow F1 photographer, Tig Barron. Is Alex hard to photograph? Does he look down on photographers? Is his vibe dismissive? From my point of view, and I've shot him since 2019, no, and no. When you look closely into this, Tig says that Alex doesn't see value in his work. Straight up, the comment that Alex made was a light-hearted joke.
It's the easiest thing in the world. It's literally...
That's right.
It's like
They make it look difficult, but it's right.
Just like,
I could see that clearly. I imagine you could too. And let's face it, he has a right to make jokes. Straight up, no driver cares who's not shooting them. They rarely see shots from those who are, let alone trying to deduce who's not running around photographing them. To be perfectly blunt, it's not important to them, and nor should it be. I've shot Alex for many years now. I talk to him often, I've done business with him, and I get on well with his family. I can tell you, he is nothing but a gentleman. He's engaging and funny. Often he'll react to me and my lens, but then again, I do all the races, so it's fair to say if he's going to look at a lens, he's more likely to look towards mine as opposed to someone like Tig who does a handful of races per year. Now, I spoke to Tig last night at the track. He mentioned he'd received a lot of negative feedback from F1 followers about his comments. A few other photographers had criticised him too, not surprising, given that he talked about Alex's vibe around photographers, not him, and then went on to say that Alex looked down on us, not him. Maybe it was just a poor choice of words, but I wouldn't be putting out comments where I speak for all photographers unless I was 100% sure that all photographers shared the same sentiment. But at this point, I can't think of any other photographers who would say that Alex is rude or dismissive. Clearly the likes of Red Bull shooters like Mark Thompson, who's been with the team for many years, don't. You, my friend, need to have more respect. Alex is one of the nicest guys I've ever worked with, and that list is a long one. Stop being a prick. Now, a lot of you who contacted me would not know anything about Alex. You don't get a chance to talk to him. You're not in the paddock. You form your opinions based on what you see on TV or perhaps read or come across on social media. So a comment like Tig's might well convince some people that, indeed, Alex is rude and dismissive. And once again, I'll say it, he's not. At least not to me and the people that I knock around with. Red Bull's other photographer, Vladimir Reis, took him aside yesterday and had a chat with him and gave him some professional advice on what he thought might help him get over this incident. And if you're wondering how it works with drivers, do they form relationships with photographers? Yes. Their closest relationship will probably be with the team photographer because they work so closely with them. Then there are those who display their images where the driver can see them, perhaps on social media, in newspapers, and then at the very bottom of the list are the local shooters that a driver would never have seen before and would have no idea where their pics might end up. Tig is somewhere in the middle there. But know this, drivers are under no obligation whatsoever to be nice to the media or acquiesce to any of our requests. I've seen a few articles online about this, and it looks like media outlets have just latched onto it to, I guess, stir up some debate. And I'm sure that someone's mentioned it to Alex, but I doubt that he's lost any sleep over it. His manager, Jacques Hextall-Smith, though, did take up the matter with Tig, and I understand he was very upfront about the comments, as any manager would be. So, are there any drivers who are rude or dismissive with photographers? Well, look, I've never seen it. I've seen some drivers who just don't interact, but they're not required to, and it's never, I guess, seen as rude or dismissive. I find all of them supremely professional in normal circumstances. Obviously, if they've had a bad day and someone's putting a lens in their face, that is a completely different kettle of fish. I doubt Tig would have had any idea that his comments would have perhaps garnered the attention that they received. Some would say he was probably too quick to jump to conclusions and misunderstood the importance of a photographer. In most cases, we're just flies on the wall. We are there to document what we see. This is the only negative comment I've seen about Alex. I find him to be a terrific fella and regard him as a friend. Of course, we all make mistakes and social media just amplifies them, but thankfully the public moves on. So I would suggest that at some point this will be a forgotten issue and everything will return to normal. Have you heard that Mick Schumacher will not be Mercedes reserve driver in 2025? So does that leave the door open for this man to step into the role? I think it does. There's been a fair amount of chatter about this, and last night I caught Valtteri riding his bike around the track on what was a chilly and windy evening in Doha. It's been a long time since we've seen George Russell in a white race suit, but I saw him last night sitting on a couch doing some media stuff, and I thought he looked amazing. And I look forward to seeing them racing in that this weekend. This young fella, 4.1 million followers on Instagram. He's only 5 years of age. You might have seen a video of him driving a Ferrari online. Well, yesterday he was riding his bicycle, and pretty talented youngster. It was funny, yesterday I took a picture of Liam Lawson and I had the fella who was walking next to him cropped in half, and I said to my editor, just crop Liam out. And my editor's come back, Jack, and said, hey, that's Toby from the Sidemen. Well, who's he? Well, he's quite famous, it turns out. So luckily I had another picture, beautiful picture of the pair of them walking together, and I did say later on to Liam, how did that work? And he told me that they'd only just met, and hence they walked into the paddock together. And what do you make here of Liam Lawson's outfit with the black singlet underneath? I thought it looked really strange, but then again, I've no idea about fashion. Clearly their sponsor Hugo thought it was a good outfit to promote. Did you see Oscar's shirt on day one of this race? It was a collab he'd done with Alpine Stars, and so I'm thinking, hey, there's going to be plenty of these shirts available online for people to purchase. But no, this was a one-off, and a very colourful one-off at that. Now, on a different matter, as we drive back from the track each night, we see all these gloriously lit buildings, and they're skyscrapers. But I'm told that a lot of them are completely empty. It's a funny thing, and I hear that from a lot of people in some of these Gulf countries, where developers are just building massive buildings, and they're sitting idle. Interested in your thoughts in the comments. It's remarkable that there are only 12 drivers of the current 20 on the grid for this weekend's race who will be in the same teams next year. The other 8, well, some are leaving and some are changing teams. So it's going to be a very interesting affair on Sunday night after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix to see what transpires. There'll be a lot of hugs and teary farewells, and maybe with a bit of luck, those drivers changing teams will be presented by their old team to the new team, which is a quirky tradition in Formula One. Although I imagine in this instance it's probably mainly the junior drivers. I can't see Lewis Hamilton being strapped to a tyre trolley like this and wheeled down to Ferrari. Let me tell you about this fella and his rather unusual rig. This is Noah. He's from Manila. He's actually here doing some work for the organiser. They want to promote next year's race, and they want to present a fan's view of being at this race. So they've got this fella with this elaborate rig coming up to all the drivers, all the team principals, and interacting with them. When he approached Max, he was taken aback, signed the cap by all means, and then he said, are you doing any neck strengthening? Another driver said the same thing. George Russell signed the cap, and then as he walked away, looked at me and said, hey, that'd be a good rig for you to get. It would be horrible, but he's not doing it for stills, he's doing it for video. Of course, you could do the same thing with those Ray-Ban glasses that have the cameras in them, but he wouldn't get the same reaction from the drivers, I'm sure. Now, what is this all about? Craig Slater had Max cut into his hair. Well, I asked Craig if he'd lost a bet, and he says no, did not lose a bet. He just thought it would be a nice thing to do to perhaps play down this thing, which, judging by the comments that I get on my Instagram posts, many of you think there is definitely bias by the British broadcasters towards the British drivers. And look, I'm not going to weigh into that argument. Certainly the Dutch media are very much biased towards their driver being the 4-time world champion. Did it change your mind? I thought it was a bit of fun. And still on the subject of Max, this is Ollie's drawing out the front of the Red Bull garage today. Any tennis fans amongst you recognise this man? Novak Djokovic, he was up the back of the McLaren garage during FP1 tonight and was happily chatting away with one of the PR people, talking about F1 and his experience at that back of the garage. Now, I want to quickly take you for a little bit of a walk around here, because without a doubt, the most beautiful paddock that we have in Formula One. Well, look, it's very close with Bahrain. Bahrain has all that beautiful fairy lighting, but this is ultra modern in so much as you can see up here, there's beautiful graphics with every team having their drivers portrayed on the windows, and it's digital signage, it's not a transparency. This beautiful lighting here could be a bit brighter, that would be handy, but certainly it creates quite an effect. I think it's the only paddock that we have with a water feature. These are actually 2-story hospitality suites, much like Abu Dhabi, and a lot of the driver activity takes place upstairs, Whereas downstairs, a lot of the hospitality stuff, guests are entertained, the likes of Novak Djokovic and others. There's outdoor dining, and tonight, another cold night. In fact, we've got 2 more cold nights in front of us. I've done nearly 140 Grand Prix, and I've never ever been to a paddock where they've had a hairdressing salon, but there is a hairdressing salon here. It's run by Qatar Airways, the sponsor of this event. And look at this. Here's my chance to get a haircut for free at the track, and I really needed one, so I'm going to sit down in this chair and probably fall asleep because it's been such a hectic day, and get myself a haircut with this lovely gentleman behind me. This is Santos. Hello. Cut away, sir. Very badly needed, and very thankful to get the service here tonight. And I can tell you that there are a number of high-profile people having their haircut this weekend. Earlier today, this man had his haircut. And who's the barber? Well, that's Sheldon Edwards. He is a barber to the stars in the UK. He doesn't just cut tennis players here. Back in the UK, he cuts the likes of Jude Bellingham, Raheem Sterling, and many other names I don't recognise. With that done, I'm now going to go to bed. But if you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. And for those of you who aren't members, you can do that as well. And for a whole lot of extras, you know where to go. Thanks for watching.
And stay passionate.
I better read that. 1, 2.